What? I'm collecting sunlight. I'm charging these solar panels. Hi, it's me, Andrzej, and this is my favorite motorcycle modeler, Dariusz Małkiewicz.
Hello, hi, it's me, Darek.
Derek, it's me. I'll keep it short so we can get to the point faster. You run motorcycle showrooms, motorcycle service shops, a racing team. Did I miss anything else?
I think that's everything.
I missed everything?
No, you covered everything.
Exactly. But let's start from the beginning. How do you get to things like that step by step? Because as usual, it all starts with motorcycles.
Yeah, through motorcycles. Through motorcycles, you meet people. Those people get you excited, then you meet even more people. Those people have their own needs, and that's how it keeps building up.
And how did it start for you? How did motorcycles even come into your life?
Well, motorcycles have always been there, probably like for many motorcyclists, since I was a little kid. And then when I finally had some serious motorcycles, I thought it would be cool if I could fix them myself. So that's really where it all started.
And your very first motorcycle, your own?
My first motorcycle was a Romet, two-speed one. I remember my dad bought it for me from some acquaintance. Back then it was a time when you couldn't buy anything new, so he got me one with big wheels. Of course, the whole crew from the neighborhood rode mopeds, and I had a Romet. I wasn't too happy about it, but at least it was nice to have something, and I was the fastest on the Romet.
Exactly, it had the biggest wheels, so of course it was the fastest. Back then, you probably didn't know anything about gear ratios yet.
I didn't know anything about gear ratios. I mean, I knew as much as that. My dad told me at first to ride in first gear, just not to shift into second, because it would be too fast. Then there was a brief break when I switched to bicycles, but I was still drawn to motorcycles. At that time, a lot of these Japanese motorcycles started appearing on our market, and everything was leading up to me buying one of those Japanese bikes, and it was a Honda CBR 600. That was my first proper motorcycle.
All right, and what about sports? Because the sports have also been a part of your life, some kind of physical activity. At what point did sports merge with motorcycles for you?
Well, sports have really been there since I was a kid too. Maybe not so actively because unfortunately my parents didn't agree to let me actively pursue motorcycle sports. So I started with a speedway school. I was kind of hanging around speedway, and those speedway competitions also got me a bit hooked on sports rivalry. But later, as I got older, racing started to appear, and I began to get more interested in it. Of course, MotoGP on television and so on. An opportunity came up to go to the track, and that's how it all started. Like probably for everyone, you go for the first time, you're hooked for life.
All right, but not everyone who goes to the track for the first time ends up with a racing team. At what point did that happen? Because, you just keep riding and riding. We don't have to get into the business details, but at what point did your business allow you to seriously get involved in racing?
Well, I think that happened right after we opened the Ducati dealership in Torun. Ducati introduced a new model, the Panigale, and it was really a motorcycle revolution because that bike is still very competitive today, and back then it was just wow, truly world-class. Even today, these motorcycles are still being ridden on the track and achieving very good results. And I realized that I wasn't able to ride this motorcycle fast enough to really show its potential, so I thought it would be worth putting someone on this bike who could really demonstrate how to ride such proper motorcycles. So that's where the idea came from for us to create a racing team, and that's how it all started.
So basically the passion for building motorcycles kind of merged with business and marketing, because that's probably what drives you these races all the time?
Yes, I think it just naturally happened that we defined for ourselves the path of how we want to be perceived in the motorcycle market. There are motorcycle companies that focus on tourism, on rallies, on all sorts of different things like that. But we, on the other hand, have focused on sports. I also have a team at the company where, in fact, everyone is an athlete. They all enjoy competition to a greater or lesser extent, but each of them has been involved with sports in some way before. So maybe that's also why we went in this direction.
Well, sport is constant development, and let's be honest, motorsport is all about progress. Mainly, I mean, to a large extent, it's about the machines. I don't know exactly what percentage is the rider and what percentage is the motorcycle. Now it's all getting really mixed up because these motorcycles are so advanced that even a great rider can't perform on a poor bike. But yes, what I'm getting at is the building of these motorcycles, because I constantly see innovations from you. You're always looking for new parts. It's like you never leave your computer, always searching for new solutions, trying to get access to these parts, because you have components that you simply can't buy in a regular store. So how much of it is pleasure and how much of it is still business?
No, for me, the best part of the season is actually that stage when we're preparing for the season, right? Because after that, it's just work, and you have to turn what you prepared during the winter into what you write. But I like doing it because I enjoy looking for new solutions in motorcycles. Sometimes it turns out we've hit the mark with something, and sometimes it turns out we haven't. But the search itself is what's fun. Yes. I personally no longer compete on the track with my motorcycle riding skills, but I do like to compete with other teams in terms of how we prepare the motorcycle. For me, that's an internal competition that I impose on myself. And for me, the races begin as soon as the previous season ends. When it ends, I already start preparing for the next one.
And this routine, I guess, you have to introduce some routine, some discipline into your work. Because do you think that's why you won? Because you did win the Dealer of the Year title last year, right?
Dealer of the Year. Dealer of the Year, and from what I know, there is a huge number of specialized tools, both for Ducati and for other brands. And is it true that you are the only one who actually has all of them? The quality of these services has definitely improved over all these years. I know that at the beginning, when we started this service and dealership business, we were definitely the only ones in Poland who had the full equipment. Now, the standards are such that these showrooms and service centers are also required to have certain tools. However, the thing is, we always have a bit more, not just what's required, but definitely much more than other service centers, because it makes our work easier and saves us time. And just like in racing, in the service center and in the showroom, we always strive to be one step ahead.
What really shocks me, because I'm still involved in this all the time, but I have a certain impression, and tell me how it looks from your perspective. When it comes to motorcycles, the ones from the past and when they started racing, that the mechanics, we reached a certain level of mechanical development in motorcycles, and now electronics are maybe even becoming more important at this point. How does it look from your perspective?
Just like you said, electronics are starting to dominate over mechanics. However, we have to remember that mechanics are still extremely important, because even with the best electronics, if the mechanics are weak, we won't make it to the finish line and we won't achieve anything. There has to be a balance maintained between all these elements in racing: the rider, the motorcycle, the crew, the electronics, and so on. All these elements have to work together, and you can't say that just one thing will let us win. We need to have all these things well sorted out and connected, because that's what leads to success in the end.
Yes, but I'm just wondering, because you started out with the Roma Cadet, right? And then you moved on to some of the first Japanese motorcycles. So you're a true motorcyclist through and through, just like me and many other riders. How do you actually feel about all this electronics? Because we know there are camps that say electronics completely kill the joy of riding. You've been around this the whole time. What's your opinion after all these years?
I think that electronics are a really great tool, both for professional riders and amateurs, because everyone can adjust the electronics to their own skills and needs to match the level of riding. I truly think, okay, there are some very hardcore motorcyclists who genuinely don't accept modern electronics. But I feel like even that kind of significant discussion would absolutely have to take place only after some very thorough and extensive testing has been completed. Like the rides of professional racers who ride with electronics and without electronics, because otherwise, in my opinion, it's hard to determine whether electronics help or not. For an average amateur rider, I think it really doesn't get in the way at all.
So now the fundamental question, does the electronics ride the motorcycle for the rider? You have access to all the telemetry. You can see how everything works. Can you say that the motorcycle rides for the rider?
No, definitely not. And despite that, you also have to look at how it is in racing, because even with the development of electronics over many, many years, the lap times that riders achieved, say, 20 years ago, are only about a second or two better than they are now, even with the development of tires. They're better now, right? Than 20 years ago. But it's only a second or two on some tracks, and with all the advancements in suspension, tires, mechanics, and so on, that's really not much. So electronics help, but they're not such a dominant element either.
But the character of the motorcycle can change dramatically, because we were talking about the V4.
You rode it?
Yes, the V4S, where the engine is the same, the mechanics are the same, but there's a completely different engine calibration, and suddenly it's a totally different machine under the throttle.
But look, for example, at the Panigale V4, you have the Panigale V4 and the V4R. It's basically the same electronics, but two completely different motorcycles.
Mm.
So here the mechanics also matter.
Mm.
It has a lighter crankshaft. The bike is easier to flick from side to side. It revs a bit higher, and automatically the R was easier to ride than the V4, right?
Mm. Ducati, because I actually spoke with Ducati engineers just a few days ago. They say that northern Italy is kind of a hub for the development of this electronics. You also see different systems since you've encountered various ones. Now you have a completely different one for the Panigale V2 for the Italian Championship. In your opinion, do the Italians really dominate in this field?
Yes, the Italians do dominate. All the racing components we've needed to build the motorcycle over the last 4 or 5 years, we've gotten all of them from Italy. That's where there are the most electronic specialists, the most racing teams, and there's also a really great system there, which I think has been created as well. I don't know exactly how it works, but the majority of these people, the best specialists, come from there. They then move up to higher and higher classes, gain experience, and as you said, Italy is a country where...
And that's really interesting. You know, I don't know if you were aware that when Lenovo entered MotoGP, it wasn't just about the money, but it was actually meant to accelerate the development of electronics. Did you even know about that? It's shocking, isn't it? That such a global brand sees potential in the development of motorcycle electronics.
Yeah, that's cool. Because sometimes it also seems that this kind of outside approach from different companies which have experience in a certain field also drives these races and the level of these races. Because if only a group of motorcyclists got fixated on something, it could actually slow down development a bit, while people from the outside can bring in new solutions, new ideas. And yes, I think that's also how it was with Lenovo.
I'm curious where this will lead, because when I brought up the topic at a dinner, like, hey, what about AI and motorcycles? They just went strangely silent.
Well, we talked about this once, that probably one day we'll come to the track and you'll say the front is slipping, the rear is sliding, and in a moment you'll have the settings ready.
The motorcycle will say, relax, 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 I'll take care of it. But for fun, you still ride motorcycles quite a lot in an analog way, don't you? No?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I ride a lot of motorcycles without electronics, real off-road supermotos where the electronics are minimal.
It's a big world to grasp, at least that's how it seems to me, because both you and I like this electronics, we want to get to know it, because it's kind of intriguing how much it changes motorcycles. On the other hand, we also want to nurture that mechanical style of riding as much as possible. It's a ton of work Derek?
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's enjoyable.
Exactly. It's great that spring is here, and I think we'll see each other at the track soon.
I hope you'll find the time.
I hope you will too.
It's a date.
Thanks.